Panting from their exertions, their hearts still pounding with terror, Miria, Raxon, and Kale surveyed the bizarre scene before them. The still quivering heap of the thing that was part caterpillar and part god still shook before them, strange hallucinogenic herbs coiling out of its flesh, growing into a brilliant green and flowering mound. One of its brethren, a poisonous green caterpillar larger than any horse, tentatively munched on a few of the herbs. They watched it with growing apprehension, wondering if perhaps the cycle might repeat itself. Edric, however, was wasting no time. He walked over to the remaining caterpillar still captured in silk at the base of the great juju tree. The tension in the web strands that held it quivered like an instrument, and groaned where they were near snapping. Edric took a moment to carefully survey the creature, look for a spot between its eyes where there were no quills that might poison him. "I'm sorry, creature. I wish there was another way." He spoke softly with a note of empathy, before drawing the dagger from his belt, aiming carefully, and driving the blade directly into the creature's brain. "Miria, something tells me we don't want to let that thing keep eating those herbs."
"You're right. I have no doubt that spirit's still lingering here. Better kill it while we still can."
Miria leveled her laser and scored a burn on the creature's maw, causing it to pull back from the strange herbs. And Raxon once again proved his worth as a warrior, loosing one arrow and then another. The first punched through a large compound eye, causing the creature to rear up. The second narrowly missed, completely blinding it. The giant caterpillar hissed, reared, and charged over the corpse of the fallen god, its mandibles wide. And even as they watched it rushing on, they could see the arrows popping out, its flesh beginning to mend, its eyes healing before them. Welcome to Swords Against Madness, an experiment in gonzo storytelling and solo role-playing. I'm playing a solo game of Swords and Wizardry, amplified by other classic role-playing games like Traveller, and accompanied by solo role-playing tools like the Mythic Game Master emulator. First I play the game, then I turn it into a psychedelic sword and planet audio drama for your entertainment. Swords and Wizardry is based on the original 1974 through 1977 rules to Dungeons & Dragons. It is trippy, fast-paced, and lethal, just the way I like it. There will be no protection for player characters when the dice decide that their number is up. But I do keep this story PG, or at least what passed for PG in the 1980s. If you didn't see it in Temple of Doom, Goonies, or Gremlins, you won't hear about it here. So reload that three-bladed sword. Get comfortable in your studded leather kirtle or your chainmail bikini. Fire up the wizard van. It's time to get weird. The latter half of episode 27 was just half of the rounds of what was a brutal combat. The appearance of the Dread Silkworm certainly made it one of the most memorable encounters I'd ever had. But it's not over yet. And we're going straight into battle. The massive caterpillar hurled its bulk over the dead god, its mandibles wide and snapping, its flesh knitting as it came. Raxon fired 2 arrows, but neither could hit its mark as he backpedaled, trying to avoid the slavering jaws of the creature. Kale's crossbow clacked, and a bolt sank into the thing's side. And from where he was halfway across the garden, Edric pulled back one of his darts and threw. It soared through the air and sank into the creature's side, barely effective. 2 others sinking into the flaming tree next to the god's carcass. Miria raised her laser and fired off a shot, but she could make no contact. The caterpillar was upon Raxon. It reared and snapped its jaws, and he barely managed to tumble his way out of its reach. It was at best a brief respite. The creature reared again, its mandibles opened, then snapped shut, faster than any sword, faster than anything with that bulk had a right to be. Raxon thrashed for a moment and then was still as the creature raised up, its maw glistening, and turned its attention to Miria. Miria fired a shot, but it went very wide. She dropped her laser as she backpedaled, trying to avoid the next snap of the mandibles. Kale backed off, firing another crossbow bolt. This one bounced harmlessly off the creature's hide. And while Edric's dart sailed through the air, he might have been throwing paper for all it was worth. As her allies' missiles rained down ineffectively on the great rubbery hide, Miria fumbled for a moment and managed to get her hands on the one thing she carried in her belt, the Arakeen bottle. Water came jetting out of it with the force of a fire hose, slamming into the creature's face, blinding it, forcing it back. It sputtered and hissed as she kept the water concentrated on it. Out of darts, Edric sprinted halfway across the garden, throwing himself low underneath the jet of water to get his hands on the laser. He pulled the trigger only to hear it hiss and fizzle, the electric suddenly sodden with salt water. The jets of water pushed it back. Slowly but surely, the creature was losing ground. But they could see its wounds closing as they sprayed it. There would be no way to kill this thing without Raxon's help. She saw Edric fumbling with the laser. She watched as Kale desperately searched around for crossbow bolts. Taking a deep breath and bracing herself, Miria increased the power of the bottle, firing a geyser of hot water in the thing's face. Blast after blast abraded off skin that would grow back almost instantly, but it was enough. Finally, the caterpillar turned and began to limp away. She didn't take the pressure off until she had chased it all the way across the garden and seen it crash through the thorny vines, leaving ragged strips of its flesh behind. Wounds that would no doubt be healed in minutes, but it mattered little. At last, the thing had finally left the garden. Then finally, she let out a ragged breath and collapsed against a nearby post, clutching the bottle in her fingertips. She then used the bottle again to put out the flaming tree. Not because she was particularly worried about the garden, but because she didn't need to look at Raxon to know what had happened. She honestly didn't want to think about it. Another companion dead. Another soul departed because of her. It was all she could do to not to break down, to scream, to cry, to kick, to blast, to set fire. She wanted to do something, anything to rage against it all. At what point would there be? She watched as Edric and Kale picked up Raxon's body and carried him back to the halfling village to celebrate another Pyrrhic victory. And so we're finally past what was a brutal 14 rounds of combat. I am really happy with the way the encounter with the Dread Silkworm went. Mythic Game Master Emulator is in a way the ultimate Rorschach test. At the beginning of every scene, you roll a die to see if things are going to go the way you expected them to. Rolling under your chaos factor is a way of saying, no, it's time to change it up. Make the story different from what you were planning. And then it gives you a direction, like it's going to be positive for the PCs, it's going to be negative for the PCs, it's going to be a plot twist. And then it just hands you two words, like develop good or oppress liberty. And then it's up to you to let your imagination run wild to give those words some kind of meaning. What you're going to get out of the emulator depends quite a bit on the mindset you have when going into it. It also creates a wild rhythm to the game. The more things change, the greater chance that it gets out of hand. The more it gets out of hand, the the higher the chaos factor, and the greater a chance for further changes, twists, and turns. But also the greater chance that the questions you ask it will end in a positive. So, if I deem something should be 50-50, like there's a 50-50 chance that the caterpillars are eating each other, but the chaos factor is 60, I end up with something closer to a 65% chance that the caterpillars are eating each other. And the more you ask questions, the more likely you are to subconsciously bring the story back under control, bringing the chaos factor back down. It creates a story that ebbs and flows in a way that it doesn't if I'm just using a, say, D6 oracle. But if you want a fully satisfying solo game, sometimes you do have to give the oracle a rest. When I had my player characters limp back to the halfling village after the battle with the Dread Silkworm and the giant caterpillars, I rolled the die out of habit against my whopping chaos factor of 7, and it told me that there was going to be an interrupt scene. Before we could move on to the expedition back out into the jungle, I would experience a PC-specific event for Miria. And when I rolled for more details, I got imitate leadership and PC positive. Given that prompt, I thought it would be really cool to send Miria down into a spirit dig, have her face some sort of shadow self that accuses her of being careless with the lives of the islanders, of being more destructive than the Gorum to them in the long run. But the more I thought about it as I was setting up that scene, the more I realized that I was tired of this part of the adventure. I wanted to move on. And nothing kills a good D&D game like throwing too many encounters that don't need to be in there into the game. A lot of modern players seem to like things like shopping sessions, role-playing out haggling, and discussing things like the food and drink at the inn. But I have found in practice, at my table at least, when I pull those things out, I often lose momentum. The players become less invested in the action of the game. I have to strike a very difficult balance to keep the action going, to keep the story pumping, while still adding enough flavor to make the setting seem like a world worth living in. I was starting to get the feeling that, like my own players, I was starting to get too much detail, too many things that distract me from the main objective. So I decided to ask Mythic 2 questions and give it a rest until I had managed to find the artifact. The first of those questions was, can the shaman help Raxon? And the answer is no. The other one being, are the halflings satisfied with the outcome in that encounter? Or are they angry about the destruction, the fires, and the murder of their god? I very luckily rolled a yes, they are satisfied. And because, of course, I'm sharing this adventure with you, I also have to make sure the pacing feels right for you. And while I know a lot of my audience really enjoys the weirdness I throw in, I don't think now is the right time for Miria to have a strange doppelganger encounter. Although, I'll put it in my pocket for the future. I've planned out a few far weirder things for you to enjoy as we go on. After all, pacing is everything in a good D&D game. But before we dive back into the story, I do have some housekeeping to take care of. My party is taking a rest in a place that is civilized, and they have racked up quite a bit of experience in that last encounter. After crunching the numbers, I have Miria's XP total at 11,214, Edric's at 5,783, and Kale's at 954. That means that Miria advances to 4th level magic user. And thanks to an amazing die roll, which we'll chalk up to Nala's excellent care, she now has 8 hit points. And I successfully got the first spell I was hoping to learn for her, Phantasmal Force. Edric has reached 3rd level as a magic user. He now has 6 hit points, and has learned the spell Levitate. If he and Miria can spend some time studying each other's spellbooks, I'll allow them to make a roll to learn each other's spells. But that's going to require that they have 2 commodities that are in short supply at the moment, peace and quiet.
I'd like you to join me on a journey into danger and mystery. Are you looking for an action and intrigue-packed solo RPG podcast? One that tells a compelling story and then pulls back the curtain? The Lone Adventurer is split 50-50. Half is a dramatic audiobook-style story set in a dark fantasy magitech world, and half is a step-by-step guide. A guide to how the drama has been created, how solo RPGs work, and how you can create solo adventures of your own. M. Guns gave this review. I have listened to a few different iterations of fantasy storytelling, and this one rates at the top along with Me, Myself and I. And Mr. Pizzle had this to say: Carl has really knocked it out of the park with this one. Amazing production, and pulls you into the story right off the bat. You can find The Lone Adventurer on the podcatcher of your choice, on YouTube, or at theloneadventurer.podbean.com. The adventure is just getting started. I hope you'll join me.
That night, neither Miria nor Edric could sleep. It wasn't witnessing the grisly death of Raxon, nor the frustration and fatigue that came from convincing the halflings not to zombify his body too, although both gnawed at Miria's insides. No, it was the insight, the understanding she had gained from watching that strange being claw its way into the caterpillar and then be driven out. It was the insight she got mostly through feel rather than anything that could be expressed in words from the all-knowing who practically swam in magic. And it was taking a crash course in planar theory from Edric. They worked late into the night, Miria providing light for Edric from the flashlight built into her gauntlet as she tapped away at holograms, making notes, formulas, complex diagrams and mind maps. A new understanding of the shape of the warp, radical from anything she had ever learned, was taking shape inside her head. And likewise she could see the gears turning in Edric's head too, as she revealed what could be known about the dark matter engine, the great viral machine slowly reorganizing the matter that human beings could neither see nor hear nor touch, but that could affect things from down to the molecules out to the shape of planets through its ability to bend gravity and energy. New spells, new techniques unfolded before their eyes, and twisted themselves into mind-bending images captured on paper. They were still talking about it as they worked their way through the jungle, with Kale smiling quietly to himself as he followed along with the squid slung over his shoulder.
That's the problem, you see. Ever since we discovered the dark matter engine, it was assumed that it was the source of all magic. It was just some ancient piece of alien technology slowly spreading throughout the invisible half of the universe. It became an obsession. The study of magic became the study of warp theory, the study of how to gather the energies of the dark matter engine locally around yourself and then unleash it. Understanding the whos and whys, the programming language of the dark matter engine became all magic was about. We threw out ideas like planes. And gods, for that matter. Anything could be explained through the dark matter engine, or so we thought. It's created an insane myopia. Nobody has ever considered looking back at planar theory, not for thousands of years. And because of it, magic has really suffered. The warp slingers up there, they can't do half the thing the wizards down here can do, even though technologically they're thousands of years more advanced in every other way.
Hundreds of years wasted on chasing the wrong theories. I can't imagine what that does to a society.
I rather think you can if you look around. Just about every civilization seems to be wrong about a few things.
I suppose you're right. As they moved over root and under branch, all three of them sat in the electrically charged state of discovery, that feeling after a good university lecture. The energized state of a child having just tied his shoes for the first time. It was heady. It made the journey so much easier. But then Miria became aware of another feeling, an uncomfortable stillness within. In her head, but not hers. And so she opened herself more fully to the all-knowing.
What's troubling you?
I have a question.
You do? I'd have thought you could learn anything you needed by reading my mind.
Complexities, deep structures, multi-channel consciousness. Some things cannot be understood until the mind focuses on them, expresses them. We correspond, but I am beginning to understand that this does not mean you and I are the same. I cannot know your mind until I step back and ask you.
That must represent a breakthrough in your research.
Yes.
What's your question?
Why did you not surrender me to the Gestalt Nature Spirit Caterpillar?
I owe you my life. 3 times over at least. I would not have got this far without you. And you have shown me that you want to understand, and you want to be respectful. I took a chance on you, and I don't regret it. I guess I think of you as a friend.
Complexities. I must change my models of understanding. I am grateful. You have destroyed many theories. You broadened my continuity.
You're welcome.
They carried on northwards for several hours, picking their way slowly through the jungle. As they progressed, Miria began to feel it, a pulse of strange energy, a magic like she had never felt before. She could feel anticipation from the all-knowing. The emotion was strange and alien, but perfectly human in how to understand it. The squid too became restless, squirming and swimming about, causing Kale to lurch uncomfortably under its shifting weight. It was the taste of a magic far older, far more complex than anything Miria had ever experienced. Something bigger and wilder and stranger than anything that was drawn from the dark matter engine. A power with a source that she had never tasted of before. A heat in the belly, a ripple of energy through her arms. A prickling on the back of her neck, all reaching a fevered pitch of intensity, and then they stepped into a place where the trees were bent and bowed in a strange way. The canopy was broken here in a slash across the jungle. The ground rutted in a way that did not seem natural. She couldn't place it yet, but it was so close, she had to be right on top of it. And then she saw it, some kind of structure, low, square, and squat, tangled in the vines. A glint of something metallic.
Do you feel it, Edric?
I feel something.
We are here.
Swords Against Madness is played, written, and performed by Brian C. Rideout. Editing, mastering, and audio production were from Stormhead Productions. All sound effects are licensed from Pixabay. This episode opened with the song Combat Cookie Tin by John Cohen, used with special permission. The opening theme was King Edward by Mr. Smith, a Creative Commons by Attribution song made available through the Free Music Archive. All other songs were licensed through Pixabay and included Aggressive Metal, Sinister Version by Brightest Avenue, Cybertech, Tense News Background by Toontank, Stylish Blues by Brightest Avenue, Outlaws Reckoning by Mood Mode, Amazonian Magical Shaman Ritual by Dennis Pavlov Music, Night Detective, the No Beats version by Amash Kshi, and Interstellar Dark by Lumine Wave. This episode featured the incredible voice talents of John Cohen from Tale of the Manticore as the All-Knowing. I'd also love to read another listener review. This one comes from Young Grognard. Swords Against Madness effortlessly blends the worlds of fantasy and sci-fi in a way that is evocative and inspiring. Love the voice work and the music. This show is a great example of what this genre is capable of. Thanks so much, Young Grognard. Your reviews mean a lot to me. I also love talking to my audience and try and answer every message even though I'm a bit slow at times. I'm currently available on X at SwordsVMadness, or you can email me through swordsvmadness@stormheadproductions.ca. If you want to support the show, please rate and review it, like the episodes, It really does help get the word out and grow the audience, and I have been doing great on that front. I've been rated number 45 for sci-fi podcasts in Japan, and sit comfortably in the top 100 in a couple of other countries. That's more than I ever could have expected from a humble D&D podcast. Or you can roll over to itch.io or drive through RPG and pick up one of my role-playing games. I use my imprint Death Trap Games at both, and this week I have just released Undeadwood Weird West RPG, my own special design of fast, furious, Old West action combined with weird American folklore to create something that doesn't take itself too seriously. If you want to ranch hodags, receive prophecies from jackalopes, or draw on the devil himself, it's well worth checking out, even if I do say so myself. Thank you so much for listening to Swords Against Madness. Until next time, play hard, roll high, and think weird. Welcome to Wonkatonkwa County. I'm Jeb Souza, and I'm here as your official greeter. The year's 1868, in case you lost count. And please, don't be alarmed if you do. Most folks would step off the number 9, missing a year or so of their memory. That's perfectly normal. You might as well get comfortable, though, 'cause there ain't no way home. Normally, Sheriff Quimby and Marshal Daigle be down here to greet you, but I'm afraid they got their hands full. So I sure hope some of you the enterprising types. We could use someone who's handy with a gun, dynamite, or a good old-fashioned cavalry sword. There are monsters what need killing, demons what need banishing, and bandits that you're gonna have to shoot at least twice. Because if you haven't guessed by looking at me, the dead sometimes get up and walk around anyway around these parts. And if you're the troublemaking types, it helps to remember that Sheriff Quimby can afford to shoot first and ask questions later. Undeadwood is a Weird West role-playing game from Death Trap Games. Visit the otherworldly plane called Wonkatonkwa County, a place where the dead walk. The devil will cut you a deal at the crossroads, and monsters from American folklore wander the desert. Played using a fast, furious rule set that uses just 2 six-sided dice. Available now on Drive-Thru RPG.